to focus less on our own instrument. We really tend to be listening to what the other players are doing and allowing us to respond.
It's a kind of music that I think the musical rapport would have to grow out of personal rapport, because if the people in the group didn't get along, didn't enjoy being around one another, then there's no way that the music was going to work.
There's an absence of ego with each of the players. We're not trying to stop it. We're not trying to play to an agenda. We're not trying to play to strict forms or play patterns or legs.
So many times you see a band or you listen to a group and you go, oh, okay, they're trying to be this or that, or they're going for this. This stuff is just sort of coming out, and that it is what it is. So that it has a certain freshness to it because of that. People ask me, well, what kind of music is this? I go, I don't know. What do you think it is? I hope it's good.
We were playing a gig. It was a jazz band. So Dave sat in on Straight No Chaser.
Oh, I remember.
And
69 Wall Street.
And immediately recognized that there was a different approach. Was playing than most guitar players that were playing jazz music at the time. So we kind of had that one encounter, and then I didn't see him again. Turned up a couple years later, where I was doing more of a rock pop band, and with the same bass player, and then walked Dave. He started talking about this project that he was thinking about doing, the world music, and I was ready for a new challenge. So I kind of raised my hand and said, yeah, bring me on.
The idea for the group, I'd been thinking about it since the late 90s, and I remember mentioning it to the guitarist who I was studying with. So this is the kind of music, and trying to describe it to him, and he looked at me and goes, well, it doesn't really exist, you're going to have to create the repertoire. And I was 25 or 26, and I was sort of like, well, how do I do that? And it took me about 10 years to get the skills and the experience and the resources to be able to create the kind of music that we're playing. It took us a while to really determine who were the right people. And it wasn't necessarily a decision of what the right instruments were as much as who were the right people, because it's a kind of music that I think the musical rapport would have to grow out of personal rapport, because if the people in the group didn't get along, didn't enjoy being around one another, then there was no way that the music was going to work.
We actually had to spend a lot of time in development because, as Dave said, he had to create the repertoire for the band, and then bring it to each of us who really did not have a lot of exposure to this type of music, and it forced all of us to kind of find our own way to create our own language or syntax that was going to work within the group. And so that's actually taken a couple of years of work on everybody's part. So you have a group that's sort of based on Dave's background in compositions in African and world music, but you add to that a jazz sax player, a vocalist who's really Brazilian and sings in multiple languages and uses her voice as an instrument on some of the songs. We have a bass player who seems to know all the folk music, not just of America, but almost every other country in the world. And so with these diverse backgrounds, finding the common ground and creating a new language out of all these influences has taken a lot of time. But I think that comes out in the music, and I think that gives any listener who has an affinity for any of that type of music, it gives them something that they can listen to and enjoy. One of the things that I think has been a major strength of really all the players that we have here is that there's a lot of empathy, and we all really tend to listen very closely to one another. And one of the things that I think is that we tend to focus less on our own instrument. We really tend to be listening to what the other players are doing and allowing us to respond. So there's an absence of ego with each of the players.
One of the first pieces that I composed was this piece called Rejoice. And it was this example of pygmies singing after a successful hunt. Pygmies are inhabitants, hunter-gatherers of the Central African rainforest. It's a field recording I had listened to. So I came across this. This is great. What can I do with this? So I took it and I basically took the composite pattern and adapted to the guitar, and then built a new melody into it, and then built other patterns around that idea. And then the bass player, Tom Santorello, took that. I told him what the piece was about, where the music came from, and he wrote the lyrics, Rejoice. So it's a song about rejoicing, but inspired by a song of rejoicing by hunter-gatherers of rainforest in Central Africa. There are other pieces that aren't necessarily based on an element that I transcribed. They're based upon things, more stylistic characteristics. For example, there's the piece called Durban Bunny Chow, which is a type of South African fast food. It's a hollowed out loaf of bread, put curry in it. And it's inspired by a style called Mbakanga, which means stiff corn porridge. And it's township music, South Africa, that Paul Simon actually was used in this coastline. There are other pieces that started out inspired by one thing and then wind up sounding like something completely different. This piece GM10, which means always with peace, started out as being inspired by this piece Sumboya by Salif Keita, and then when we started playing it, it started sounding like late 60s Miles Davis. So all those things are sort of add to the diversity. It's multi-dimensional.
What we did was we set up a fairly tight plan where we were kind of tightened up the music through live shows, and then we went in and we started to record, and we were very happy with the results. We actually had gotten most of the tunes recorded, I think, in 2 takes, sometimes 3. A lot of times we kept the first because we were very happy with the overall performance. The process really was to work together in a small room. It's all done live. There's very little overdubs, and we were more concerned with the feel of the music than we were about any kind of accuracies or tempo perfection or anything like that. I don't think that's something that really would help the music at all. I think it would probably detract from it.
Yeah, so we recorded the basic tracks, all of them. There are 9 tracks live over the course of 2 days, and then over the couple of weeks, I came back and overdubbed acoustic guitar to fill out the texture, and then in one night we did the vocals. So it's, it all happened in about a month. So now we're on to mixing and mastering, but I didn't want the record to be overproduced. I've listened to a lot of people's music and projects where they spend countless hours in the studio doing things, redoing things, overdubbing, and it just sucks the life right out of this music. I wanted something where you could feel the performance, and the mistakes could be fixed, some of them can be left, as long as it had the right energy, and the energy was there. That was the most important thing. The CD, what I've done is write descriptions for each piece, sort of program for each piece, and what it does is create an imaginative context for the listener so that they read this, and it doesn't describe too much. It just gives them a little bit, so that when they're listening, they can use their imagination to take that theme and create their own narrative. And something that happened at one of our concerts, before the piece, I explained what the piece is about. Traveling in northern Senegal spending time in a village there. Without going in great detail, play the piece, and the person who came up to me afterwards and said, it was almost like I could imagine myself being there, and whether it was whether he was accurate or authentic in his head it was irrelevant. It's the fact that it brought him to that place. So the descriptions of the pieces are there so that it provides a reference point for the listener, and then it's up to the listener then to use their imagination to reconstruct something from that. And I think that's something that's lost in a lot of music, art, and in our culture, is that we're spoon-fed everything. Everything is accessible at a click of a button, and there's no need to use your imagination anymore. The opportunity to use your imagination, even for a brief second or 4 or 5 minutes listening to a piece, is something that can be very fulfilling.